Juliana Croft and Caleb Vance had been together for 7 years, a long journey that was supposed to culminate in marriage. But on the night before the wedding, he got drunk. Leaning against my shoulder, his words slurred, he murmured, "I love you so much, Elara." I froze. He froze too. Elara was the name of my best friend. The night before our wedding, Caleb got drunk. He collapsed onto my shoulder and whispered those words. "I love you so much, Elara." I was paralyzed on the sofa. Elara was my maid of honor, my closest confidante. The living room was still decorated with festive ribbons and balloons, their cheerful colors suddenly feeling garish and mocking. My wedding dress hung by the floor-to-ceiling window, its skirt pooling like a quiet drift of snow under the soft light. On the coffee table lay the detailed timeline for our wedding, next to a small black voice recorder. Leo, my business partner and the executive coordinator for the wedding, had dropped it off that afternoon. "You two should practice your vows so you don't flub them tomorrow," he'd said. "Run through them tonight. I'll leave the recorder here so you can listen back." Caleb and I had practiced for about half an hour before his friends called, dragging him downstairs for a last night of freedom drink. He stumbled back in, unsteady on his feet, and fell into me. I helped him to the couch. He closed his eyes and, just as he had done countless times over the years, buried his face in the crook of my neck. I expected him to say, "Juliana, we're getting married tomorrow." Instead, he spoke Elara Hayes' name. In that one instant, I forgot how to breathe. The words seemed to jolt Caleb awake himself. He snapped his eyes open, the drunkenness still there but his face a shade paler. He stared at me, his lips moving slightly. "Jules, I looked down at him. "What did you call me?" He sat up straight, his voice hoarse. I drank too much. It was a familiar refrain. For 7 years, every time he misspoke, made a mistake, missed a date, or bailed on me at the last minute, it was always, "I was too tired," or "I had too much to drink," or "I didn't mean it." In the past, I would always let it go, give him an out. This time, I didn't. The red light on the voice recorder on the coffee table was still glowing. We both saw it. Caleb reached for it, but I was faster, closing my hand around it. His hand froze in midair. "Jules, don't overthink this," he pleaded, standing up to try and hug me. "Elara is your friend, and she's my friend too. I have pre-wedding jitters. My head is a mess." I took a step back, and his arms fell empty. It was the first time in 7 years I had ever moved away from his touch. Caleb's brow furrowed, as if he couldn't believe my reaction. "Juliana Croft, don't make this complicated," he said, his voice low and tense. "The wedding is tomorrow. Both our families are in town. The hotel is paid for. The invitations are sent. Do you have any idea how bad this will look if you make a scene now?" Make a scene? On the eve of my wedding, I hear my fiancé call out my best friend's name, and his first reaction isn't apology or guilt, but a fear that I will cause a scene. A bitter laugh escaped me. It wasn't a happy sound. It was the sound of my past 7 years replaying as a joke. I turned off the recorder and put it in a drawer. Caleb watched my every move, his frown deepening. "What does that mean?" "It means nothing," I said. "You're drunk. Go to sleep." He seemed to let out a breath of relief, though a flicker of unease remained. As he reached the bedroom door, he looked back. "Jules, no mistakes tomorrow." I looked at him. Whether or not there are any mistakes tomorrow doesn't depend on me. He didn't understand, or rather, he didn't want to. After the bedroom door closed, I stood alone in the living room. I could hear fireworks outside. A neighbor was probably celebrating something. My phone screen lit up. It was a text from Elara. "Jules, did Caleb make it home okay? He had a bit too much to drink tonight. Take care of him." It was followed by a smiley face emoji. I stared at the message. A normal friend might ask if the groom got home safely, but she had always called him by his last name, Vance, like a casual acquaintance. When had she started calling him Caleb? I'd always brushed it off. Elara had once explained they'd known each other longer than I'd known either of them, so they were just comfortable. She'd laughed and draped an arm over my shoulder. "You're not going to get jealous over that, are you?" Back then, I had laughed too and said of course not. Now I realized it wasn't that I was magnanimous, I was just naive. I didn't reply to her. I opened the drawer, took out the recorder, and transferred the audio file to my laptop, then backed it up to 2 separate cloud drives. After that was done, I sat back on the couch. At 1 a.m., Caleb's phone, which he'd left on the coffee table, buzzed. The screen lit up with a notification from Elara. Did you let anything slip? My fingers hovered over the phone. A few seconds later, a second message appeared. Are you really going to marry her tomorrow? If you regret this, I won't leave. I didn't touch his phone. I simply used my own to take a picture of the two messages on his lock screen. Then, I turned off the living room lights. In the darkness, the celebratory decorations were just vague, shadowy shapes. I thought back to 3 months ago, when we were picking out wedding bands. Caleb had said, I'll handle the engravings. I want it to be a surprise. I'd thought it was sweet. Now I walked to the entryway console and opened the jewelry box. The 2 rings sat nestled in the velvet. I picked up the man's band, then the woman's. Using my phone's flashlight, I examined the inside of my ring. Engraved in tiny letters was CV and EH, not CV and JC, not Caleb Vance and Juliana Croft. Caleb Vance and Elara Hayes. I held the ring, a chill creeping through my hand and into my chest. From the bedroom, I could hear Caleb's heavy breathing. I didn't go in to confront him. I placed the rings back in the box, closed the lid, and then sent the audio file, the photo of the texts, and the picture of the rings engraving to my personal backup email. Once the email sent successfully, I set my phone face down on the table. Tomorrow was the wedding. They all expected me to prioritize the big picture, to avoid a scene. But from this moment on, the only picture I was concerned with was my own. The next morning at 7 a.m., the makeup artist arrived on time. Caleb emerged from the bedroom already in his white dress shirt. His eyes were red-rimmed, as if he hadn't slept. He saw me sitting calmly at the vanity and visibly relaxed. Jules, he said, walking over and placing his hands on my shoulders. The makeup artist, hearing him, discreetly moved to the balcony to give us space. I looked at his reflection in the mirror. It was the same face I had known for years. The face that, after college, had cooked me pasta in a tiny, cramped kitchen, clumsily cutting his finger and letting me put a bandage on it. He had kissed the top of my head and whispered, Juliana Croft, I'm going to give you the best life. I had held on to that promise for 7 years. I was with him when he went from an entry-level salary to a project manager. I moved with him 4 times. I stood by him through his father's illness and his mother's surgery. When his company had layoffs and times were tough, I gave him my savings to help him stay afloat. I thought we had walked this path together, but it turned out, on some parts of the journey, I had been walking alone. I picked up the jewelry box and placed it on the vanity. Was the engraving on the ring a mistake by the jeweler? Caleb's hands on my shoulders tensed. In the mirror, I saw the color drain from his face. What engraving? I opened the box and pushed my ring toward him. CV and EH, I said flatly. Caleb Vance and Elara Hayes. He stared at the ring for 2 silent seconds, then spoke rapidly. The brand must have messed it up. I sent them the details. They must have misread your name. My initials are not EH. I know, he said. His words rushed. I'll have them fix it today. We can just wear them for the ceremony. No one will see the inside. No one will see the inside, so he thought it didn't matter. I let out a small, mirthless smile. Caleb, who were you thinking of when you chose these rings? His expression hardened. Juliana, are you really going to drag up old issues today of all days? Is this an old issue? Isn't it? He shot back, his voice tight with frustration. I said one wrong thing last night when I was drunk. And now you're blowing up over this ring. What do you want from me on our wedding day? I looked at him. I want you to tell me the truth. He avoided my gaze. Just then, the doorbell rang. Before I could move, Caleb rushed to get it. Elara stood there, dressed in a champagne-colored dress, her hair perfectly curled, holding a bridesmaid gift box. Seeing Caleb, she smiled with a natural intimacy. The groom is here guarding his bride so early? Caleb instinctively glanced at me. Elara, seemingly oblivious to the tension, walked in and linked her arm through mine. Jules, you look stunning today. Her eyes fell on the ring box on the table, and her voice faltered for a fraction of a second. Oh, the rings are here. Let me see. She reached for them. I closed the box before her fingers could touch it. Her hand froze. She blinked, her smile unwavering. What's wrong? The bride is being a little possessive today. I looked up at her. Elara, do you know what's engraved inside the rings? Caleb immediately interjected. Jules. For a fleeting moment, panic flashed in Elara's eyes, but she recovered quickly, laughing it off. An engraving? It's just your names, right? What else could it be? I stared at her without a word. She grew uncomfortable under my gaze and turned to get her bridesmaid dress. The makeup artist returned, and the air filled with the scent of hairspray and foundation, masking the tension. But I knew the crack was already there, spreading. At 10 a.m., we were at the hotel for the final dress fitting. In the dressing room, Elara stood behind me, adjusting my veil. Her fingers were light, her voice softer still. Jules, you and Caleb have really been through a lot to get here. I looked at her reflection. Yes. 7 years. She smiled. You know, Caleb is a very sentimental person. When we first met, he was just like this. He acts tough, but he's soft-hearted. He keeps things buried inside. My hand on the skirt tightened. She continued, "Don't be upset if he seems distant sometimes. A man like him just needs a little push." "Did you push him?" I asked. In the mirror, our eyes met. Her smile faded slightly. "I just want him to be happy. And what about me?" She froze. I turned to face her, the sweep of my dress brushing the floor. "You're my best friend. Do you want me to be happy?" The dressing room fell silent. Outside, someone was moving flower arrangements, the footsteps echoing like taps on glass. Elara looked down, smoothing a fold in my dress. "Of course," she said, too quickly. The answer sounded rehearsed, a line she had prepared long ago. Later that afternoon, Caleb's mother arrived at the hotel. She immediately began criticizing the decorations. The flowers were too plain, the place cards lacked elegance, the wedding favors were unimpressive. Finally, she called me into a private lounge and slid a document across the table. "Juliana, tomorrow you'll be part of the Vance family. It's better we get some things cleared up today." I looked at the cover, a prenuptial agreement. Caleb's mother pushed a pen toward me, her tone like a formal notice. "Although the deed to the house is in both your names, the Vance family made the down payment. You two have a good relationship, so it doesn't matter whose name is on it, but we need to be clear for legal purposes." I opened the first page. It stipulated that the house was Caleb's sole property, all cash wedding gifts would be managed by the Vance family, my income would be deposited into a joint family account for household expenses, and the profits from my design studio would be used for our shared life. Meanwhile, all of Caleb's premarital assets would remain his alone, with no claim from me. I looked up. Caleb was standing at the door, clearly aware of this. He didn't come in, nor did he say a word in my defense. Elara was right beside him, holding a glass of water, a gentle and considerate observer. His mother tapped the table. "Sign it. We don't want to be late tomorrow." I picked up the pen. Caleb visibly relaxed. But instead of signing, I capped the pen and closed the document folder. "Mrs. Vance, I won't be signing this." Her face instantly darkened. Caleb finally walked in. "Juliana, what is it now?" I looked at him. "It's nothing. I just suddenly realized that some accounts do need to be settled before a marriage." His mother's expression was beyond ugly. She sat bolt upright on the hotel lounge sofa, as if I had publicly insulted the Vance family honor. "Juliana Croft, what is the meaning of this?" she asked coldly. "The wedding is tomorrow, and now you want to talk about money with us?" I placed the agreement back on the table. "Weren't you the one who brought it up first?" She was momentarily speechless. Caleb frowned. "Jules, my mom doesn't mean it like that. She just wants to avoid future complications." "Then it should be fair," I stated. "For the house's down payment, your family contributed $60,000 and I contributed $40,000. The $50,000 for renovations, I paid for. The $25,000 for furniture and appliances was also charged to my card. Why does the agreement say it all belongs to you?" Caleb's face changed. He hadn't expected me to state the figures so clearly in front of his mother. Mrs. Vance immediately shot back. "What's the big deal about renovations and furniture? When a woman gets married, isn't it expected that she contributes to the home?" I looked at her. "Then is it also expected that the profits from my studio go into a joint family account? If we're a family, as you say, why do your son's premarital assets have nothing to do with me, while my income must be shared?" She slapped the table. "Don't be so calculating. Caleb has been with you for 7 years. He's invested his youth too. Do you think he would ever wrong you?" The absurdity of it was staggering. So my 7 years were an investment, but his 7 years were a sacrifice bestowed upon me. Caleb came over, his voice low. "Jules, don't make everyone look bad right now." I looked up at him. "Who am I making look bad?" A flash of impatience crossed his eyes. You know my mom cares about appearances. So my feelings don't matter? That's not the same thing, he said. You've always been so understanding. Why are you picking at these things today? Understanding. There was that word again. For 7 years, my being understanding meant I took care of his sick father, paid his mother's medical bills, gave up my own promotion to move with him for a job, and didn't object when Elara called him in the middle of the night. It meant that in the end, they expected me to be so understanding that I would erase my own name from my own life. Elara spoke up softly from the side. Jules, Mrs. Vance is just thinking about your future. Don't let a small detail ruin the wedding. I turned to her. A small detail? My gaze seemed to sting her. Her voice softened. That's not what I meant. I just think it hasn't been easy for Caleb these past few years. He hasn't had it easy, so my money should just become his? Elara's face went pale. Caleb immediately stepped in front of her. Juliana, why are you taking it out on Elara? I watched his protective gesture, and the last bit of warmth in my heart turned to ice. I just asked her a question. She was just trying to help, to calm you down. On what grounds does she get to persuade me to sign this agreement? Caleb's face darkened completely. She's your best friend. I laughed. And she's also your Elara. The moment those words were out, the room fell silent. Caleb's eyes widened, and the glass in Elara's hand trembled, water spilling onto her dress. His mother frowned. Elara? What are you kids going on about? Caleb quickly recovered. Juliana, I already explained what happened last night. Did you? I asked. All you said was that you were drunk. Elara's eyes instantly welled with tears. Jules, are you misunderstanding something between Caleb and me? I swear, there's nothing. Her words trailed off as a tear rolled down her cheek. Seeing her cry, Caleb's mother's tone hardened. The day before the wedding, and you're bullying your own maid of honor to tears. Juliana, what exactly are you trying to do? I watched Elara cry. She was beautiful when she cried, her tears clinging to her lashes, making her look fragile and wronged. In the past, I would have felt for her, comforted her, defended her. Now it just felt familiar, terribly familiar. Every time she needed Caleb, it was just like this. She'd say her car broke down, and he would abandon my birthday dinner to go get her. She'd say she had a stomachache, and he would leave the table on the anniversary of my father's death. She'd say her ex-boyfriend was harassing her, and he would stay up all night outside her apartment building. I had asked him about it once. He'd said, Elara has no one here, don't be so cold. But I had no one either. I just never cried so beautifully. I stood up and picked up the agreement. I'm taking this with me. I'll read it over and then decide. His mother scoffed. What's there to read? If you don't sign, what happens to the wedding? I put the agreement in my bag. That depends on what Caleb chooses. He stared at me, his face grim. Are you forcing my hand? I'm not the one forcing you, I said, looking him in the eye. You're all the ones who pushed me to this point. With that, I turned and walked out of the lounge. As the door closed, I heard his mother mutter. She's this difficult before she's even married. What will she be like after? Caleb didn't argue. Elara whispered, Caleb, don't blame Jules. She's just so in love with you. I stood outside, my hand on the doorknob, and suddenly felt I didn't have the strength to even push the door open again. Leo was coming down the hallway and stopped when he saw my face. What's wrong? I handed him the prenup. Make a copy of this for me. He flipped through a few pages, and his expression changed. What is this? A highway robbery clause? Caleb knows. Leo swore under his breath, then caught himself. Juliana, have you thought this through? I looked towards the ballroom, where staff were adjusting the lighting. A large photo of Caleb and me was projected on the main stage. In it, I was smiling brightly. He stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder. I remembered that when we took that photo, Elara was there, supposedly to help with my dress. But looking back now, I realized that in several photos, Caleb's gaze wasn't on me at all. I still need one more piece of evidence, I said softly. Leo understood immediately. What do you need to check? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshot of Elara's texts from last night. Can we check the hotel's security footage from the hallway? I need to know who Caleb met before he went down to drink with his friends. Leo glanced at me, no questions asked. Public area footage can be pulled, but we need a valid reason. I'll talk to security. I'll tell them we think a wedding ring might have been lost and we need to verify who came and went. I nodded. After Leo left, I stood alone at the end of the hall. My phone buzzed again. It was Caleb. Don't cause any more trouble tonight. We're getting married as planned tomorrow. We'll talk about the prenup later. I stared at the words and, for the first time, didn't reply. Half a minute later, another message came. Juliana, don't disappoint me. I locked my phone. He had been disappointed in me many times over the last 7 years. Because I wasn't gentle enough. Because I didn't know how to be coy. Because I wasn't as needy as Elara. This time, finally, I was done disappointing myself. I returned to my studio around 8 p.m. On the night before her wedding, a bride is supposed to be sleeping early, wearing a face mask, awaiting a day of blessings. Instead, I sat at my computer and opened a ledger I had kept for 7 years. It started as a simple way to track our living expenses. Caleb hated bookkeeping. He said counting pennies soured a relationship. I believed him then, teasing him for his carelessness while I diligently tracked our rent, utilities, and social obligations. Later, when he was promoted and earning more than me, he always seemed to be short on cash. His father was hospitalized, and he said the insurance reimbursement was slow, so I transferred him $5,000. His mother needed dental implants, and he wanted her to have the best, so I swiped my card for $4,000. His company project needed upfront funding, and he promised to pay me back in a couple of months, so I gave him $10,000. Then, when we were short on the down payment for the house, his mother said the family was temporarily out of funds, so I transferred my entire $40,000 in savings. I never once asked for it back, because I thought we were going to be a family. Now, as I went through the transactions one by one, I realized that in this family, I was the only one ever contributing. Leo sat across from me, his face growing darker with every line item he read. In 7 years, you've spent nearly $200,000 on Caleb and his family. That doesn't include the house renovations or the wedding deposits, I corrected him. Leo looked up sharply. So, what's the grand total? I clicked on another spreadsheet, closer to 300,000. Leo just laughed, a bitter, angry sound. 300,000. And they had the nerve to ask you to sign that prenup? I didn't speak, the screen's glow illuminating my face. Looking at the numbers, I suddenly remembered all the things I had denied myself. A winter coat I loved, over $500. I put it in my online cart and then deleted it. A trip to Europe I had planned for 6 months, canceled because Caleb's father had a follow-up appointment. A small condo I adored and almost put a deposit on, until Caleb said, "We're about to get married. Why would you buy a bachelorette pad? Let's just buy our marital home together." I listened. I always listened. Leo pushed a cup of coffee toward me. "Don't just bottle it all up." I took a sip. The bitterness coated my tongue. I'm not bottling it up. Seeing it all laid out like this, it's clarifying. Just then, Leo's phone rang. He answered, his expression turning serious. When he hung up, he passed the phone to me. Hotel security found it. Last night at 11:40 p.m., Elara entered the temporary hospitality suite Caleb was using. She came out at 12:20 a.m. Only after that did Caleb go downstairs to drink. My hand froze. Is there video? The public hallway camera caught her going in and out. Nothing from inside the room, obviously, Leo said, looking at me. But this is enough. It proves they met privately. It's enough to blow up their just friends story. I played the video. In the grainy footage, Elara, wearing the same black dress from our earlier video call, stood at the door, fixing her hair. The door opened, and Caleb appeared. He looked down at her, his expression unreadable. As Elara stepped inside, her hand briefly brushed his wrist. The door closed. 40 minutes later, she emerged, her eyes looking a little red, but then she smiled as she waited for the elevator. I knew that smile. It was the smile she wore whenever she won something. I saved the video, Leo asked softly. What's your plan? It's not too late to call off the wedding. I looked at the wedding timeline on the table. Of course, it's not too late, but I refused to let them spin this as Juliana had a pre-wedding meltdown and pin all the blame on me. Caleb's family would call me petty. His mother would say I was greedy. Caleb would say I was paranoid. And Elara would cry and say she did nothing wrong. They would stand on a moral high ground and trample my 7 years of devotion into a joke. I closed the laptop. The wedding will proceed as planned. Leo stared. Are you sure? I'm sure. I pulled out the prenup. But we're changing the script. He looked at me, his eyes lighting up with understanding. How? I flipped to the ceremony section. The original plan was for Caleb to say his vows, then me, Then we would exchange rings. I crossed out exchange rings with a pen. This part becomes a thank you session, I said. Give me control of the main screen. Have the audio and images ready in the order I give you. Leo frowned. You're going to present the evidence at the ceremony? Not right away, I said. I'm going to give them one last chance. A chance for what? For Caleb to tell the truth himself. Leo paused for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I've got your back. I opened my phone and sent a message to my lawyer, Miss Davies, who my aunt had recommended. She had handled a contract dispute for my studio before. I sent her the prenup, the bank transfer records, the proof of my contribution to the house, and the wedding contracts. Half an hour later, she replied, Do not sign the agreement. If the wedding is canceled, we need to confirm liability for breach of contract. For the house, you can claim equity based on your actual contribution. For the transfers, we need to differentiate between gifts, loans, and shared living expenses, but there is potential to recover the large sum transfers. I stared at the words do not sign. A weight I didn't know I was carrying finally lifted. I used to think the law was distant from matters of the heart, but now I saw that when a heart is broken, evidence is what saves you. At 1 a.m., I went back to our apartment to get some things. Caleb was waiting in the living room, his face grim. Where have you been? The studio. The wedding is tomorrow, and you went to the studio? The timeline needed changes. He stood up. Are you still trying to stir up trouble? I ignored him and went straight to the bedroom to pack my documents. He followed me, grabbing my wrist. Juliana, I'm warning you. My parents and all our relatives will be there tomorrow. Don't you dare embarrass me. I looked down at his hand. In the past, his touch would have softened me. Now, it just hurt. Let go. He didn't, his grip tightening. Is this because of Elara? I told you, there's nothing between us. I looked up at him. Then why were you alone with her in a hotel room for 40 minutes at 11:40 last night? The blood drained from Caleb's face. He let go of my arm and took a step back. You spied on me? I looked at him. Are you afraid of what I'll find? The bedroom was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. His lips moved, but in the end, all he said was, she was upset. I was just comforting her. Why was she upset? Caleb ran a hand through his hair in frustration. She just broke up with her boyfriend. She was alone in this country for so many years, and she doesn't have many friends back here. She just relies on me. I laughed. She relies on you, so you spend time with her in a private room the night before your wedding. You feel sorry for her, so you call out her name in your sleep. You're afraid she'll be sad, so you engrave her initials in my wedding ring. Caleb's head snapped up. You saw that. It wasn't a question. His expression was all the confession I needed. So it wasn't a mistake by the jeweler. He knew. I zipped my bag, taking my documents, the recorder, and the jewelry box. Caleb blocked the doorway. Where are you going? To the hotel. Juliana, he said, his voice dropping, tinged with panic. After tomorrow, we can talk properly. We'll sort this out. I looked at him. After tomorrow, there will be nothing left to talk about. On the morning of the wedding, the hotel ballroom was a picture of perfection. The flowers, the lighting, the champagne tower, the welcome board, everything was exactly as I had meticulously planned 3 months ago. I had obsessed over this wedding, changing the color of every bouquet, the font on every place card, the order of every course. Caleb had teased me for being a perfectionist. I had laughed and said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Of course it has to be perfect. Looking back, he probably never saw it as once in a lifetime. He just needed a respectable wedding to marry a suitable person, to satisfy his parents, and to secure a stable future for himself. And Elara? She was the unsuitable, inconvenient truth hidden in his heart. At 10:30 a.m., the rehearsal began. I stood off stage in my jeans, watching the crew do a final sound check. Leo came to my side. All the files are ready. I have control of the main screen, and I've briefed the hotel staff. I nodded. And Miss Davies? She's at the coffee shop nearby. She can be here in 10 minutes if you need her. Good. Just then, a small commotion occurred at the ballroom entrance. I turned to see Elara arrive. She was wearing a long white dress. Not her bridesmaid dress, but a satin gown so white it was almost a wedding dress. The cut exposed her shoulders and neck perfectly. Her hair was in an updo, with pearl earrings dangling. Her entrance made several of the staff do a double take. Caleb saw her too. He had been talking to the officiant by the stage. but his gaze froze on Elara for a few seconds. She, however, acted as if she hadn't noticed, lifting her skirt as she walked toward me, her smile gentle. "Jules, the zipper on my bridesmaid dress broke, so I had to change into this. You don't mind, do you?" She asked if I minded, but she was already wearing it. Caleb walked over, frowning at me. Don't give her a hard time over something so small. Before I could even speak, he had already decided I was the one being difficult. A small thing? My maid of honor showing up to my wedding rehearsal in a white dress is a small thing? The wedding ring engraved with her initials is a small thing? Meeting her alone the night before is a small thing? Calling out her name is a small thing? I suddenly understood. What truly crushes a person isn't a single event, but the fact that with every single thing that happens, he thinks you're the one who shouldn't be making a fuss. I looked at Elara. If the zipper broke, the hotel has backup dresses. This one is not appropriate. Elara's smile froze. Caleb immediately stepped in. Come on, there's no time for that. I picked up my walkie-talkie. Leo, bring the backup bridesmaid dress. On my way. 3 minutes. Leo's voice came back instantly. Caleb's face darkened. Juliana, are you really going to make her change in front of everyone? I looked at him. At a wedding, the bride wears white, the bridesmaids don't. That's basic etiquette. Elara bit her lip, her eyes turning red again. Jules, if you're so bothered by it, I just won't be a bridesmaid. Caleb's voice turned cold. Elara is your best friend. You can't even show her this little bit of grace? I ignored him, my eyes fixed on Elara. You're right. You don't have to be one. This time, it was Elara's turn to be stunned. She likely never expected me to agree. I took a page from the wedding schedule and, in front of them, crossed out the maid of honor's toast. You were scheduled to give a speech. That's canceled now. Elara's face turned pale. She didn't come to this wedding just to be a bridesmaid. She wanted to stand in the position closest to Caleb. She wanted to wear a dress that was almost a bride's. She wanted to stand before all our guests and, as the best friend, give us her blessing, all while making Caleb remember her grace and her sacrifice. She didn't want the wedding, she wanted the stage. Caleb slammed his hand down on the schedule. Juliana, that's enough. Everyone in the ballroom turned to look at us. I met his gaze. I'm just adjusting the schedule for my own wedding. This is our wedding. Is it? I asked. Then why is it that since last night, every time you've opened your mouth, it's been to defend her? Caleb's face was a mask of fury. Elara immediately whispered, Caleb, forget it. It's my fault. I'll go change. As she turned, a tear perfectly timed its escape. Caleb instinctively started to follow her, but stopped after 2 steps. He realized all the staff were watching him. His feet seemed nailed to the floor. For 7 years, he could secretly favor Elara. He could leave my birthday dinner for her. He could tell me she was more fragile when I needed him. But today, at the wedding venue, he finally had to care about appearances. He turned back to me, and for the first time, I saw real anxiety in his eyes. Juliana, what do you really want? I closed the binder. I want to finish the rehearsal. He stared at me. And then, we wait for the wedding to begin. He looked skeptical. You're not going to cancel? I smiled faintly. Didn't you say it yourself? Both our families are here. The hotel is paid for. The invitations are sent. It would look terrible to cancel now. They were his words from the night before, thrown back at him. His expression became even uglier. The rehearsal continued. The officiant told us to practice the procession. When the music started, Caleb extended his hand to me. I looked at it, suddenly remembering the first time he held my hand 7 years ago, his palm sweating. We had just started dating. He stood by the university track field, awkwardly telling me, Juliana, I might not be very good at taking care of people, but I'll learn. I believed him. I spent 7 years teaching him how to love, how to be responsible, how to communicate with family, how not to run from hardship. And after he learned, he turned around and gave that tenderness to someone else. I didn't take his hand. The officiant paused. Caleb whispered, Don't do this. I looked at him. It's just a rehearsal. We don't need to hold hands. His hand hung in the air. The music played on. In the empty ballroom, everyone was watching us. This time, I wasn't the one being embarrassed. After the rehearsal, Caleb cornered me in a corridor. He kept his voice low, as if afraid of being overheard or of losing control. Juliana, what the hell is wrong with you today? I pulled my arm from his grasp. What's wrong with me? You should know better than anyone. I told you. There was nothing inappropriate with Elara and me. Then what do you call inappropriate? I demanded. Engraving her initials in my ring isn't? Being alone with her in a room the night before our wedding isn't? Calling out her name in your sleep isn't? And defending her for wearing a white dress today also isn't? Caleb, where's your line? He was silent for a few seconds before saying, I admit, the ring was my fault. I looked at him. Just the ring? His brow furrowed, as if he was finally at his breaking point. Fine. I used to have feelings for Elara, okay? But that was in the past. Who doesn't have a past? Why do you have to cling to it? His words were like a dull knife, not drawing blood immediately, but slicing away at my 7 years of memories, one by one. When was this past? I asked. Caleb looked away. College. Before we got together. He didn't answer fully. I pressed on. Or was it after we were together? His silence was the answer. The hallway was busy with staff moving flowers, setting up chairs, placing table cards. Everyone was working hard for a wedding. And here I was, about to be the bride, listening to my fiancé silently admit that he had been in love with someone else throughout our relationship. I took a deep breath. Caleb, if you could never let her go, why did you get together with me? He finally looked at me, his eyes filled with guilt and avoidance. She had just left for overseas, and you were always there for me. I laughed. So that was the simple answer. She left, I was there, I was the placeholder. He seemed to realize his mistake and quickly tried to backtrack. That's not what I meant. Jules, my feelings for you over these 7 years were real too. Real in what way? I asked. You really got used to me taking care of you? You really got used to me paying your family's bills? You really got used to me being the stable option you needed while you waited? Caleb's face was pale. Don't make me sound so despicable. I didn't say anything more. There was no need. I turned and left. Back in the bridal suite, the first thing I did was open my phone and turn off my location shares with Caleb. A pop-up asked, "Stop sharing location with Caleb Vance?" I hit confirm. Then I logged into our joint bank account and unlinked my payroll deposit. I canceled the automatic transfer for next month's living expenses. I opened the car loan page. We bought his car 2 years ago. He said he needed it for his commute but was stressed about the loan payments after a job change, so I agreed to pay half each month. I canceled the automatic payment. The final payment for our honeymoon trip was due in 3 days. I canceled that too. One by one, I was severing the invisible threads that tied me to him. With every click of confirm, I felt a little lighter. 10 minutes later, Caleb called. I didn't answer. He texted. You turned off your location. What happened to the joint account? Why did the car payment get canceled? Juliana, are you really going to start nickel and diming me now? I stared at the last message and laughed. Nickel and diming. They always minimized my contributions, called them small things. 7 years of small things had piled up to become the life they took for granted. I texted back, from now on, you pay your own car loan. He called again immediately. This time, I answered. His voice was laced with anger. Do you have to start settling accounts with me on our wedding day? I'm not starting today, I said. I'm just finally finishing. We're getting married tomorrow. After we're married, what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours. Your mother's prenup seemed to disagree. The line went silent. I continued. Your mother was right. It's better to clear things up before the wedding. Caleb's breathing grew heavy. Do you really need me to beg? No, I said. I need you to be honest. He scoffed. You know, compared to Elara, you really come up short. The words were finally out. My hand tightened on the phone, but I remained silent. He seemed to regret it as soon as he said it, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. Jules, I didn't mean... I cut him off. Short in what way? He was silent. I answered for him. She cries. She acts weak. She makes you feel needed. I don't. I just solve problems, take care of your family, pay your bills, and stand by you through tough times. So, she's your idealized love, and I'm your live-in maid. Enough, he yelled. It's not enough, I said calmly. Caleb, at the wedding tomorrow, you had better be sure about who you really want to marry. I hung up. Not 5 minutes later, a message from Elara came through. Jules, can we talk? She sent the address of a coffee shop near the hotel. Leo saw the message. Don't go, he said immediately. It's a trap. I showed him my phone. The more of a trap it is, the more I have to go. Leo looked puzzled. I took the voice recorder from my bag. Last night, it accidentally recorded Caleb. Today, I'm going to intentionally record Elara. Leo looked at me, his eyes suddenly misty. Juliana, Your calmness right now is breaking my heart. I put the recorder in my pocket. If I'm not calm, I'll just let them keep playing me for a fool. In a private booth at the coffee shop, Elara was already waiting. She had changed back into her bridesmaid dress, her eyes still red from crying. As I sat down, her first words were, "Jules, you've really changed." I put my bag aside. "Have I?" She nodded, her voice soft. "The old you would never have been so aggressive." I looked at her. "The old you wouldn't have asked my fiancé the night before my wedding if he was sure he wanted to marry me." Elara's composure faltered, but she quickly recovered. "You saw his phone?" It popped up on the lock screen. She stirred her coffee, a small smile playing on her lips. "Well, since you already know, I won't beat around the bush." I waited. My finger, hidden under the table, pressed the record button. The small red light was concealed by my purse. "Go on," I prompted. She looked out the window, as if lost in memory. "You know, Caleb fell for me first." She said it so casually, as if talking about the weather, but every word was deliberate. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she could finally unveil the superiority she had hidden behind a smile for years. I looked at her. "So?" She seemed surprised by my calm reaction. "So, don't you feel like you've been the third wheel in our story for years?" I laughed. "I was with Caleb for 7 years, and you're telling me I'm the third wheel?" Elara took a sip of her coffee. "You two got together because I left the country." She looked at me again. "Back in college, Caleb pursued me for a long time. He didn't have much money then, wasn't very romantic. I admit, I was young and wanted to see the world. I didn't want to be tied down by a relationship with no future. So I left. He was devastated. And you just happened to be there for him." "Happened to be there." There it was again. Caleb said because she left and I was always there. Elara said I just happened to be there. In their stories, I wasn't a person. I was a convenient plot point, a replacement. "Why did you get close to me when you came back?" I asked. Her eyes flickered. "We were friends." "Who did you meet first, Caleb or me?" She fell silent. The answer was obvious. I met her at a networking event for my studio. She had just returned to the States with a glittering resume but few local connections. She added me on social media, telling me how much she admired my design work, how we seemed to have so much in common. Later, she came to my apartment for dinner and acted surprised to see Caleb. "You two know each other?" Caleb was stunned too. They claimed to be just old college classmates who hadn't spoken in years. I believed them. Now I realized in that reunion I was the only one who didn't know the truth. Elara sighed. "Juliana, I really don't want to hurt you." I looked at her. "You just want my fiancé." She frowned. "Feelings aren't objects. It's not about who gets them first." "What about money?" I asked. "The money I spent on renovating our house? On the wedding deposits? Is that just part of feelings too?" Her expression stiffened. "Do you have to make everything sound so transactional?" I had to laugh. This was her genius. She could covet another woman's partner, her place, her wedding, and then turn around and accuse me of being transactional for counting the actual costs. "Does Caleb know you invited me here today?" I asked. She didn't answer. I answered for her. "You want me to cause a scene. You want me to cancel the wedding. That way, Caleb will think I'm the one who overreacted and ruined everything, while you're just an innocent party caught in the crossfire." Elara's grip on her coffee cup tightened. "You're overthinking it." I leaned forward slightly. "Then tell me, what were you doing in his room last night?" Her expression changed. "You checked the security footage." The public hallway wasn't hard to access. The mask of gentleness finally dropped from her face, replaced by a cold edge. "I was just asking him if he could not get married." "And what did he say?" Elara looked at me and suddenly smiled. "He said he couldn't do that to you." I waited. She continued. "But he also said that if I hadn't left back then, he never would have gotten together with you." A sharp, needle-like pain pricked my chest. Not fatal, but a dense, spreading ache. "So, you think you've won?" I asked. "It's not what I think," she said. "It's the truth." "So what if you were with him for 7 years? When he's drunk, he calls my name. He engraves my initials in your ring. Tomorrow, when you're standing at the altar, he'll be thinking of me." I nodded. "So that's what you wanted to tell me." Her voice softened again. "Juliana, just let him go. You're so proud. Why marry a man who's in love with someone else?" As if to show some final shred of decency, she added, "Of course, you shouldn't make it too messy. Caleb's family has a lot of connections, and your parents have their reputation to think of. If you back out gracefully now, I'll convince Caleb to give you some money as compensation. Compensation? I laughed out loud. Elara frowned. What's so funny? You're finally being honest. I pulled a folder from my bag and laid a copy of the house payment records on the table. Do you know how much of my money is in this house? She didn't even look at it. Juliana, it's really not a good look for a woman to be so obsessed with money. I placed a second document on top of the first, a list of bank transfers. And do you know how many times Caleb took money from me, telling me it was for an emergency, only to turn around and give it to you? Elara's face changed. She reached for the papers. I held them down. Don't worry, I have plenty of copies. She finally looked panicked. What are you trying to do? I looked at her. I'm saying that if your love with Caleb is so pure, it shouldn't have been built on my money, my wedding, and my place in his life. Elara sneered. You think showing him this will make him stay? No, I said, gathering my papers. I was never trying to make him stay. I stood up. Elara, you can come to the wedding tomorrow. In fact, you should. She stared at me, the confident smirk gone for the first time. What are you planning? I picked up my bag. You said he would choose you, so I'm going to give you both a chance to make that choice, publicly. Walking out of the coffee shop, the sky had already darkened. The hotel's exterior was lit up with a large screen displaying the wedding announcement. Groom, Caleb Vance. Bride, Juliana Croft. I stood under it for a moment, then texted Leo. Got the recording of Elara. He replied instantly. Main screen files updated. I texted back. Don't let anyone touch the control booth before the ceremony tomorrow. Don't worry, he replied. I've got your wedding covered. Reading the words your wedding, my eyes stung. This wedding was indeed mine. Not because I was marrying Caleb Vance, but because this was where I would finally, personally end these 7 years. I spent my last night as a fiancé in the hotel's bridal suite. The wedding dress hung by the wall, the veil was laid out on the sofa, and the bouquet for the morning was on the table. The room was filled with the artifacts of a wedding, but my heart was empty of any anticipation. At 10 p.m., Caleb arrived. He stood at the door, his suit jacket slung over his arm, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. Can we talk? I didn't let him in. We can talk here. He looked at me, as if finally realizing this wasn't just a temper tantrum. Jules, I admit I handled things badly today. But 7 years, it shouldn't end like this, over these things. These things, I repeated. He closed his eyes in frustration. I'll have the ring changed. I'll keep my distance from Elara from now on. We can even renegotiate the prenup. Is that enough? His tone was one of concession, but I heard what he was really saying. He didn't think he was wrong, he just thought the problem had become too big and needed to be contained. Did you ever love me? I asked. Caleb froze. The question was so simple that if the answer was yes, he should have said it instantly, but he didn't. The hallway light cast his silence in sharp relief. After a long moment, he said, Jules, we're not kids anymore. Marriage isn't just about love. I nodded. I understand. He grew agitated. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? I looked at him. You want to marry me because I'm suitable, because I'm stable, because I can take care of your family, because I'm not like Elara, who makes you feel insecure. Is that it? His lips moved, but no words came out. Why do you have to be so sharp? I smiled. Because I'm finally done making your excuses for you. Pain flashed in Caleb's eyes. Juliana, I'm not a heartless person. I know, I said. You just gave your heart to Elara. His face went white. Just then, his phone rang. The screen lit up. Elara. He reflexively moved to silence it. But I had already seen. Go ahead. Answer it, I said. Aren't you just friends? He froze, the phone ringing relentlessly. It finally went to voicemail. A second later, a text came through. Caleb, I'm so scared I'll lose control tomorrow. Caleb flipped his phone over, hiding the screen. I suddenly felt exhausted by it all. Just go. He didn't. He took a step forward, his voice low. Jules, let the wedding happen tomorrow. After it's over, you can be as mad as you want. I'll take it, okay? I looked at him. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of the wedding falling apart, of the gossip, of the Vance family losing face. And what if I'm not willing? I asked softly. His gaze hardened. You will be. Why? Because you can't bear to lose me. He was so certain. Certain that I loved him. Certain that I would tolerate anything. certain that 7 years of history was a rope that would keep me tied to him. I didn't argue. Good night. I closed the door. He stood outside for a long time before his footsteps faded. Half an hour later, his mother called. I answered. She skipped the pleasantries. Juliana, it's normal for a woman to be emotional before her wedding, but you need to know your limits. We have so many friends and family here tomorrow. If you humiliate the Vance family tomorrow, your own parents will be the ones dealing with the gossip and embarrassment too. I sat on the sofa, looking at my wedding dress. Mrs. Vance, you don't need to use my parents to pressure me. She scoffed. I'm just reminding you, Caleb is a good catch. You've been with him for 7 years. You're not getting any younger. If you really blow this up, you'll be the one who suffers. Is that so? Of course, she said confidently. Caleb has a great career and a bright future. A woman who acts as difficult and calculating as you? Well, good luck finding someone else to put up with it. I suddenly felt sorry for her. She had spent her entire life believing her son was a prize that women should blindly sacrifice themselves for, so she naturally assumed I would be terrified of losing Caleb. Mrs. Vance, I said, just make sure you're there early tomorrow. She was taken aback. What for? There are some accounts that are better settled with you present. I hung up. At 11 p.m., Leo arrived with a stack of documents. He laid them out on the table. The audio files from the recorder, the photo of the ring's engraving, the screenshot of Elara's texts, the hallway surveillance footage, the scanned prenup, the 7 years of bank transfers, the house payment records, the wedding contracts, and a summary of claims prepared by Miss Davies. Leo looked at the spread. Jules, are you really going to show all this at the ceremony? I picked up the ring box. I'm going to ask Caleb one last time. If he tells the truth, we cancel the wedding, and this ends with a shred of dignity. If he doesn't, I close the box. Then it won't be dignified. Leo's eyes were red. Will you be okay? I was silent for a moment. No. How could I be? 7 years isn't 7 days. I loved him. I genuinely wanted to marry him and build a life with him. But being sad can't be a reason to let myself be trampled on. I looked at Leo. But I would be even more sad if I actually married him tomorrow. At 1 a.m., I finally lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. I could hear footsteps from the next room, guests arriving, someone laughing about the party tomorrow. I stared at the ceiling. My phone lit up. It was a picture from Elara. An old, tarnished ring. The text read, "This is the ring Caleb gave me in college. He never forgot." I saved the picture and replied, "Bring it tomorrow." She didn't write back. I put my phone down and closed my eyes. Just before dawn, I finally slept for a little while. I dreamed I was back on the university track field 7 years ago. Caleb was standing there, awkwardly asking me to be his girlfriend. In the dream, I didn't nod. I turned around and walked away. On the day of the wedding, the ballroom was filled with guests. The flowers, the lights, the music, it was all a beautifully packaged lie. I stood behind the grand doors in my wedding dress, listening to the officiant warm up the crowd. Today, we are here to witness Caleb Vance and Juliana Croft turn 7 years of love into a lifetime of commitment. 7 years of love. The phrase felt like a cruel joke. Leo stood beside me, giving me a final, reassuring nod. The screen, audio, and all files are ready. My father came to my side. He didn't know about the chaos of the last 24 hours. He just saw that I looked pale. Jules, are you nervous? I looked at the silver in his hair, a pang of sorrow in my chest. Dad, no matter what happens in there, don't worry, I can handle it. He looked confused, but before he could ask, the music began. The doors swung open. Every head in the room turned to watch me. I walked down the aisle, one step at a time, toward the stage where Caleb stood waiting. He wore a black tuxedo, a boutonniere pinned to his lapel. He looked at me, his expression a mixture of tension, defensiveness, and a flicker of panic I couldn't quite decipher. Elara stood in the maid of honor's spot. She had changed back into the bridesmaid dress, but she wore a single pearl hairpin, the one Caleb had given her for her birthday in college. She looked at me with a hint of defiance and anticipation. She was waiting for me to lose control, but my steps were steady. When my father placed my hand in Caleb's, Caleb gripped it tightly. Jules, don't, he whispered. I looked at him, then tell the truth. His face changed. The officiant smiled, and now, the groom will share his vows. Caleb took out his vow card. His voice was steady at first. Juliana, meeting you 7 years ago was the luckiest day of my life. You walked with me through my lowest points, from having nothing to this day. People in the audience applauded. In the front row, his mother finally had a look of satisfaction on her face. Caleb continued, "You are the person who understands me most, the person I want to protect for the rest of my life. No matter what comes our way, I will always hold your hand." His voice trailed off for a split second. I saw his gaze drift past me, toward Elara. It was just for a moment, but I saw it. He tried to recover. "I will cherish this hard one, E." He stopped himself, but it was too late. A collective stillness fell over the room. I smiled. He had almost said her name again. The officiant, quick on his feet, was about to jump in, but I raised my hand and took the microphone. Just a moment. The ballroom went completely silent. Caleb stared at me, his eyes wide with alarm. "Jules." I ignored him and turned to face our guests. "Thank you all for coming today to celebrate with Caleb and me. Before we continue, I'd like to ask the groom a question." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Caleb's mother looked horrified. "Juliana, what are you doing?" she hissed, her whisper caught by the microphone. I looked at Caleb. "Caleb, last night, you were drunk and told me, 'I love you so much, Elara.' Can you tell everyone here, right now, that it was just a drunken mistake?" The room erupted in gasps. Elara's face went sheet white. Caleb's fists clenched. His voice was a low, strangled whisper. "Juliana, do you have to do this?" He looked at the crowd, at his parents, his relatives, his colleagues. Finally, through gritted teeth, he said, "I was drunk. I misspoke." I nodded. Then the engraving inside my wedding ring, CV and EH, was that also a mistake? I opened the ring box and held it up. On cue, Leo switched the feed to the main screen. A close-up of the ring's interior filled the giant projection, CV and EH. The room exploded. "Who's EH? Isn't the bride Juliana?" "Wait, the maid of honor's name is Elara Hayes, isn't it?" Elara took a step back. Caleb's mother shot up from her seat. "Turn that off. Who told you to show that?" Leo stood by the control booth, his face impassive. Caleb was ashen. "Jules, I can explain." "Good," I said. "Explain." His throat worked, but no words came out. I spoke for him. "Did the jeweler make a mistake? Did you write the wrong note? Or was the person in your heart never me to begin with?" The room quieted. I took out the voice recorder. "I recorded what you said last night." The speakers crackled to life. First, Caleb's slurred voice. "I love you so much, Elara." Then my voice. "What did you call me?" Followed by his panicked silence. The clip was short, but it was enough to make the entire ballroom so quiet you could hear a pin drop. His mother rushed the stage, trying to grab the microphone. I stepped back. "Mrs. Vance, don't worry, there's something for you too." The screen changed to a projection of the prenuptial agreement. House belongs solely to Caleb Vance. Cash gifts managed by the Vance family. Wife's income to be pooled into the family account. Husband's premarital assets are his alone. Someone in the audience gasped. I saw the embarrassed and shocked faces of Caleb's extended family. "This house," I continued, "I paid $40,000 of the down payment and $45,000 for renovations and furniture. The wedding deposit, the reception fee, the party favors, the photography I paid for the majority of it." The screen shifted to my ledger, a clear, itemized list of dates, amounts, and purposes. I wasn't crying. I was simply laying out my 7 years for everyone to see. "Caleb, you say I'm making a scene today because I'm not being understanding. So let me ask you, all the money I put into your family, all the responsibilities I shouldered for you, all the face I helped you save over the years, was that not understanding enough?" Caleb's eyes were red. He took a step forward, his voice trembling. "Jules, stop." "Why should I stop?" I looked at him. "Because you're finally embarrassed?" He reached for me. I moved away. Suddenly, Elara burst into tears. "Jules, you've misunderstood. There's nothing between Caleb and me, I swear." I looked at her. "Are you sure you want me to keep going?" Her crying stopped abruptly. I gave Leo a look. The screen changed again, this time to the hotel security footage still. 11:40 p.m., Elara entering Caleb's room. 12:20 a.m., Elara leaving. It was followed by the screenshot of her text to him. "Did you let anything slip? Are you really going to marry her tomorrow? If you regret this, I won't leave." The room was in absolute chaos. Elara had no color left in her face. Caleb stared at her, his expression one of shock and betrayal. "You sent him that?" Elara shook her head frantically. "No, Caleb, listen to me. I can explain." I laughed. Finally, they were explaining things to each other. I took off my veil and laid it on the officiant's podium. Ladies and gentlemen, this wedding is officially over. Caleb grabbed my wrist, his grip desperate. Jules, don't. His voice was raw. I was wrong. Please, don't cancel the wedding. We can go home and talk. We can fix this. I looked at him. Caleb, you're not afraid of losing me. His eyes welled up. I said each word clearly. You're just afraid of public humiliation. I placed the ring box in his palm. This ring, with your and Elara's initials, I'm returning it to its rightful owner. Then, I turned and walked off the stage. Behind me, Caleb suddenly dropped to his knees. The crowd gasped. He called my name. Juliana! I didn't turn back. Sometimes when a person kneels, it's not out of remorse. It's because they've finally realized they can no longer stand on their own 2 feet. I didn't take off my makeup or change out of my wedding dress. I sat in the hotel lounge, a stack of files in front of me. My parents, Caleb's parents, Leo, and my lawyer, Miss Davies, were all there. Caleb stood in the doorway, looking as if the life had been drained out of him. His mother was still shaking, whether from anger or fear. I couldn't tell. Her first words were, "Juliana Croft, you have ruined my son." I looked up. Mrs. Vance? Was I the one who told him to engrave Elara's initials on my wedding ring? She froze. But you couldn't do that in front of so many people. I couldn't tell the truth in front of so many people? I countered. She was speechless. My father, who had been sitting stone-faced since he watched the whole thing unfold, finally spoke. He looked at Caleb. "We trusted you with our daughter for 7 years, and this is how you treat her?" Caleb's lips were white. "Mr. Croft, I'm so sorry." My father scoffed. "Your sorry doesn't cover 7 years." My mother held my hand, her eyes red. "Jules, why didn't you tell us sooner?" I squeezed her hand back. "It's not too late now." Miss Davies pushed a folder to the center of the table. "Since the wedding has been canceled, we need to address several issues. First, the wedding expenses. Per the contracts, many services have already been rendered and are non-refundable. The party liable for these losses will depend on the reason for cancellation." Caleb's mother immediately snapped. "Juliana canceled it in public. Of course she's responsible." Leo spoke up, his voice cold. "The cancellation was due to gross misconduct on the part of the groom. The entire event was recorded on video. We have sufficient evidence." She glared at him. "Who are you to butt in?" "Leo was the wedding's executive coordinator," I said. "He's also a witness," Miss Davies continued. "Second, the cash gifts received today must be cataloged and returned to the guests. They cannot be kept by either party." Mrs. Vance's face fell further. She had planned to control the gift money, just as the prenup had stated. That avenue was now closed. "Third, the house," Miss Davies said, opening a file. "The property is registered in both your names. The bride contributed $40,000 to the down payment and another $70,000 in renovations and furnishings, with records of contributing to mortgage payments. You can either negotiate a buyout or sell the property and split the proceeds according to your respective financial contributions." Caleb finally spoke, his voice hollow. "I don't want the house. Give it to Juliana." His mother whipped her head around. "Are you insane?" Caleb looked at me, his voice hoarse. "Jules, it's my way of compensating you." I looked at him. "I don't accept that kind of compensation." He looked stunned. "We will follow the law and our contributions. I'll take what's mine, and I don't want a penny more." Pain flooded his eyes. "Do you have to draw such a clear line between us?" I almost laughed. "Caleb, when your mother handed me that prenup, that's not what you said." He hung his head. His mother tried to argue, but Miss Davies laid out the bank transfer records. Furthermore, over the past 7 years, there have been numerous large-sum transfers from the bride to the groom and his family. While some are shared living expenses, many can be classified as loans or advances based on text message records. We will be compiling a complete list. You're going to demand back money spent during a relationship? Mrs. Vance shrieked. "How petty can your family be?" I looked at her. "You seemed pretty good at drawing financial lines when you asked me to sign that prenup." Her face turned beet red. Just then, Elara, who had been silent, spoke up. "None of this has anything to do with me, right?" All heads turned to her. Her eyes were still red, but she was already trying to distance herself. "I admit, Caleb and I had some history. but I never asked him to cancel the wedding or put my name on a ring. And I certainly never took any money from him. I picked up a bank statement. Last March, Caleb transferred you $7,000 for your rental deposit emergency. The day before, he had taken $10,000 from me, claiming his mother needed a medical procedure. Elara blanched. I produced another screenshot. Last August, you claimed your ex was harassing you, and Caleb stayed at a hotel near you to protect you. The hotel was charged to my card, because he told me he was on a last-minute business trip. Her lips trembled. He offered to help me. So you admit you took the money. She fell silent. Caleb turned on her, his voice sharp. Elara, didn't you tell me you were broke? Elara, cornered, lashed out at him. I was broke, but I never asked you to lie and take her money for me. Caleb, don't you dare pin all this on me. The room fell silent. I watched them. This was their great love. So profound when the waters were calm, but the moment a price had to be paid, they were shoving each other into the fire. Caleb's expression finally shattered. He probably realized, in that moment, that Elara didn't love him as much as he'd imagined. She loved the feeling of being cherished, the victory of winning him back, the proof that she could take something from me. His mother pointed a trembling finger at Elara. It's all your fault, you homewrecker. You knew he was getting married, and you still meddled. Elara sneered. Don't forget, Mrs. Vance, last night you were the one who asked me to convince Juliana to sign that prenup. You thought she was a pushover too, didn't you? His mother's face contorted. My father slammed his hand on the table. Enough. He looked at me, his voice firm. Juliana, you decide. Everyone fell silent. I picked up a pen and signed the retainer agreement Miss Davies had prepared. Return the gifts, sell the house, and split it according to the law. Caleb is responsible for the wedding losses. And for the other funds, pursue what can be recovered. Caleb watched my signature, his eyes red and raw. Jules, is there really no chance for us? I finished signing and looked up at him. No. 7 years, he whispered. Don't you feel anything? I capped the pen. It's precisely because of the 7 years that I can't waste an eighth. 3 days after the canceled wedding, I went to the county clerk's office. This was the day Caleb and I were supposed to get our marriage license. Instead, I was there to file the paperwork for the house sale and authorize the legal proceedings. Caleb was there too. He had lost weight, a layer of stubble on his chin. His shirt was wrinkled. He was no longer the perpetually put-together Caleb Vance. He saw me at the entrance, and his eyes lit up for a second. Jules. I stopped. Do you have the documents? His hand tightened into a fist. A bitter smile formed on his lips. Is that all you have to say to me now? Documents? The silence stretched. The past few days. I've done a lot of thinking, he said, his voice raspy. I admit, I took your presence for granted. I thought you would never leave. I thought no matter what I did, you'd always be there. He choked up. The day of the wedding, after you left, I realized the thing I was most afraid of wasn't the embarrassment. It was that you were really gone. If he had said this a week ago, I might have cried. Now, I just felt a profound stillness. Belated devotion isn't devotion. It's the discomfort of a broken routine. What about Elara? I asked. His expression darkened. She's gone. Where? I don't know. She blocked me. I wasn't surprised. Elara wanted the thrill of being fought over, not the chore of picking up the pieces with Caleb. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. I used to think she was fragile, that she needed protecting. Now I see she's better at protecting herself than anyone. That's not her fault, I said. He looked up, surprised. I met his gaze. It's yours. You imagined her as your idealized love and used me as your real-world safety net. You never truly respected either of us. His eyes turned red. Jules, I was wrong. Please, can we start over? He stepped forward eagerly. I'll give you the house. I'll pay back all the money. I'll cut off Elara completely. I'll handle my mom. Whatever you want, I'll do it. I took a step back. Caleb, you still don't get it. He froze. I'm not leaving because of the house or the money. And I'm not leaving because you haven't paid enough. I took the ring box from my bag. The CV and EH ring was still inside. He had tried to return it to me through Leo, saying he wanted me to have it. Now, I placed it back in his palm. You need to remember something. I wasn't the one who lost this relationship. He looked down at the ring, his hands shaking. It was you, I said softly, who never engraved my name in the first place. He finally broke down and cried. People bustled in and out of the lobby, some holding hands to get married, others emerging from arguments. Life, like a river, flows on, unconcerned with any single person's regret. I walked around him and went inside. The paperwork was processed quickly. The house was listed for sale, the proceeds to be split according to our contributions. Caleb was liable for the wedding losses. Miss Davies had already sent the demand letter for the outstanding funds. When I came out, Caleb was still standing there, looking at me like I was a door that had closed forever. "Jules, can I see you again?" "There's no need," I said. A smile that was more painful than tears crossed his face. "Are you really this heartless?" I looked at him. "Caleb, I'm not heartless. I just finally used up all my soft spots for you." I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard him call my name, "Juliana!" I didn't stop. This time, he was finally chasing me. But I no longer had any desire to be caught. The day the house sold, I personally took down the custom wooden Caleb and Juliana sign we had hung on the front porch. The nails had been driven in deep, leaving dark, empty holes in the wood. I stared at it, remembering the night before the wedding, sitting in this very living room, hearing Caleb say Elara's name, and feeling my world collapse. Now, standing here, I realized the world hadn't collapsed at all. It was just the 7-year illusion I had built for him that had finally shattered. Miss Davies was efficient. The wedding gifts were returned, a portion of the non-refundable deposits was recovered, and Caleb was billed for the rest. After the house sale closed, I got my contributions back, plus my share of the appreciation. For the personal loans that were documented in texts, Caleb paid them back promptly after receiving the lawyer's letter. His mother had initially made a fuss in a family group chat, calling me greedy and crazy, but Leo simply forwarded me the screenshots. I didn't engage. I just had Miss Davies send her a cease and desist letter. The next day, the posts were gone. News about Elara traveled fast. A video from the wedding, though not widely circulated, made its way through our mutual circles. A PR firm she was about to join rescinded its offer after a background check. She called me once, sobbing. "Jules, I'm so sorry. Can you please just tell them it was all a misunderstanding?" "Which part was a misunderstanding?" I asked. "You going to his room? You asking him if he would choose you? You telling me in the coffee shop that I was just a 7-year placeholder? Or you taking his money?" There was a long silence on her end, then a choked whisper. "Do you have to be so cruel?" I laughed. Caleb asked me the same thing. "You both seem to think I'm cruel. But when you were hurting me, did you ever stop to think you were being too much?" I said, "Elara, I will not lie for you," and hung up. I never saw her again. I heard she left the city. I also heard Caleb went to find her, and they had a nasty fight at the airport. She told him she never promised him anything, that he was delusional. He said she ruined his life. She shot back, "Didn't you choose this yourself?" I didn't bother to confirm the rumors. It was no longer my business. A month later, I moved into a new apartment. It was smaller, but the light was beautiful, the balcony overlooking a line of sycamore trees. In the afternoon, sunbeams warmed the floorboards. I sold my wedding dress. Not for the money, but because I didn't want it taking up space in my closet or my head. The buyer was a young, bright-eyed girl. "Aren't you sad to sell it?" she asked. I looked at the dress that had once held all my hopes and also witnessed my awakening. "No," I said. "It deserves to go to a truly happy wedding." After she left, I filled the empty space in my closet with a new winter coat, the one I had once deemed too expensive. When I swiped my card for it, I didn't hesitate. Leo came over to help me set up my new studio. As we hung the sign, he said, "Jules, you look more beautiful now than you did on your wedding day." I laughed. "It's the lack of heavy makeup." "No," he said, shaking his head. "It's the light in your eyes." I looked up at the new sign, Juliana Croft Event Design. I used to want nothing more than to write my name into Caleb's future. I finally understood that the most important place for a person's name is on their own life. 2 months later, Caleb came to find me. It was raining. He stood outside my studio building, holding an umbrella but not using it. The receptionist came up. "Miss Croft? There's a Mr. Vance downstairs who would like to see you." I looked out the window. He was thinner, quieter. The rain soaked his shoulders. He looked up and saw me, his eyes pleading, grasping for one last thread of hope. I didn't go down. I asked the receptionist to tell him I wasn't available. He stood there for half an hour before finally leaving. Later, a long text message arrived. He said he finally understood who was really with him through the hard times. He said he thought he could never forget Elara, But now he realized he was just obsessed with the thing he couldn't have when he was young. He said if he could do it all over again, he would have engraved my name on the ring. I read it, then deleted it without replying. People always learn their lessons after they've lost. But my life was not his textbook for regrets.